Has anyone ever inspired you to change your life that made you more fulfilled? Well, as a leader in your business and in your community, what are those questions that you ask yourself on a daily basis? It's these questions that we explore on Inspiring Women. I am your host, Betty Collins, and I'm a certified public accountant, a business owner, and a community leader who partners with others who want to achieve remarkable results for themselves and their organizations. I am here to help inspire you to a positive step forward for a better life. So today on Inspiring Women, we have a really, really great guest, and she, in my mind, is the defines coming back in business. She defines how you do it well and keep navigating through things. I kind of call her the comeback kid. And Daisy's with us today, and she just has a great story that I think we could all benefit from, especially during we're not going to talk about COVID, but during the COVID year. So there was tremendous amount of coming back, and even coming into 2022, she's got to regroup and think it's always about what's next and how are you going to do things, especially in the industry she's in, which is restaurant and food. So Daisy, if you want to just kind of introduce yourself, give your 30-second to 3-minute commercial of what you do and why you do it.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Sadaya Daisy Lewis. I'm the owner of Modern Southern Table Restaurant and Catering. I'm located in the Bud Dairy Food Hall, which is a Cameron Mitchell ran facility, and we're one of the 10 food vendors there. My food is basically a Southern tour of the South. We've specialized in food all below the Mason-Dixon line. And so we start from all the way from the East Coast of the Gullah Islands, or the Sea Islands, as most people know. And we start with Gullah cuisine, and then we reach all the way into the deep South, such as Mississippi and Alabama, and we do like fried chickens and fried fish based off of those regional fairs as well.
Yeah, if you really want to see some good food on your website, because I was on there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. Where can people find your website or, something about your restaurant?
Our website is modernsoutherntable.com, so they can find us there. That would be the best place. We have a Facebook and Instagram, Modern Southern Table, as well on those two platforms. They can also, just Google us. We have a lot of cool articles and reviews and things there to find out more about us as well.
Yeah, I mean, you will salivate when you see these pictures of the fish and the chicken. It's all amazing. So I was on there going, oh my goodness. But, in Columbus, Ohio area, and this podcast is all over the United States, but in the Columbus area, Cameron Mitchell is a pretty big deal. He's a guy who's known all over the country. He has restaurants everywhere, but he's a Columbus, Ohio guy, grew up in Upper Arlington, and you've gotten to work with him. I just like you tell the audience a little bit about working with Cameron Mitchell and what that's been kind of like.
To work with the Cameron Mitchell organization as a whole has been great. They've really helped me develop the brand, helped me get it ready for a reopening. They've been really great with just helping us with key business issues. With one of the issues we've had right now is pricing. And so the CMR team has really came in and helped us with that, especially since there's so many people having problems with shipping and the pricing is going up and things like that, that they really stopped and said, hey, let's get your pricing right, help you with this because this is going to be a huge error. So they've been really awesome. And as most people can imagine, Cameron has been just like the big brother, being there, supportive, always there to have advice if needed.
Yeah, he's really been he's been very impactful when it came to in 2020 with the state of Ohio with the governor's office and making sure that restaurants did this well and stayed alive. And he's been that guy that started out as a startup and became this huge success. And so he's been at all levels in your industry. So let's just talk about. You've got a nice full plate in 2020 and take it from there as to, the story of everything's buzzing along and the bottom drops and you came back. So let's kind of talk through a little bit of that.
So 2020 started out really great. I was kind of like on a high, I was saying. I had just finished the best catering year that we've had for the business. We had a full calendar going into 2020. We had just inked the deal with the Cameron Mitchell organization. I actually had just did a ceremony, a speech with Cameron Mitchell and things like that. And so things were going really, really well at the beginning of 2020. And then COVID hit. What was that, in February? Well, it started to affect, yeah, I was say it started to affect my business March 9th. That was the day I remember the day very clearly because I had a big event for a big pharmaceutical company. And they called that day maybe I think it was the day before their event or 2 days before their event. And they called and was like, hey, we're going to have to cancel this event due to COVID. And so March 9th was the day that COVID immediately started impacting my business. But I didn't see the major effects until the governor shut down the city. When he said no events, that just killed my business. Being that I was a catering business at the time, 100% catering, we have to have events to function. So when the Governor DeWine said no events and he shut down the city of Columbus, we said indefinitely, right? Because we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah. No, didn't work out.
Right. So we thought, it was going to be a little bit. But when he said no events, no large gatherings, no weddings, my calendar cleared almost instantly. People started immediately calling, asking for refunds, asking to reschedule, asking to cancel. It was I like to say that it was amazing how it just like unfolded, because it was almost like 2 days of nonstop calling and people just trying to fix everything, and then it was over.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay, everybody asked for their money back or asked for a refund. Everybody canceled the calendar. I went from a full calendar to absolutely nothing for 2020. And it went from, thinking I was going to have my next most profitable year to absolutely having no income in 2 days. It was like, I like to say it was pretty amazing to see how that could happen. But yeah, it was wow.
So let's go to that point, because all business owners hit a point where they go, what the heck just happened? Go back to your kind of your mindset, because business owners face that at times. You're going to have those moments if you're a business owner. And for the audience, can you take us back to that moment to go, what am I going to do?
So that moment was really hard, as you can imagine, because like I said, it was just two full days of where I literally, how can I say this, took money out of my child's mouth. Like, like I don't like took food out of my child's mouth. Like I was like literally every day checking off or crossing out someone's name that was canceling. So to see the money just slip away, it was very disheartening, very overwhelming. and I quickly fell into a depression, um, because you saw your business that you worked so hard for. And I don't know if you probably heard this, but to me, it was like, I worked so hard for this business for so many years, and something that is totally out of my control. I have no control whatsoever, just shut me down in less than 2 days. Like, I see if it was the health department came in and I violated something, or if I didn't do something, I would be like, oh, it's my fault. This was like, it was not your fault at all. And to see that happen quickly sent me spiral into what, is situational depression. Um, I couldn't function for about 2 weeks.
Right. Right. I get it. Um, you probably ate comfort food. Is that a good statement? That's what I would have done. Okay. That's what I would have done.
It wasn't even, it was comfort food. It was sweets.
Yes. Yes.
Every cookie, every dessert, whatever I could get my hands on, I ate. Just fell into that.
Sure.
They even called it with the COVID-15. I said I gained like the COVID-40.
Yeah. I think it really should probably be more the COVID 20, 30, 40. You're probably right, because we all did it. But so you said, you faced your reality. You had your emotional time, so to speak, and you probably still have some of that with the reality. When did you figure out, I got to do something to come back? I'm not going to just give this away or give this up. What did you do?
I just had to, I look at my daughter a little bit, and see her, and was like, well, how am I going to feed her? I don't want to be on welfare or anything. I've never been that person. So I was like, well, it was time to work. It was time to do something. And I just, I had left corporate America a few years earlier. So I really didn't want to go back to that. And so I knew, like, okay, you can't cater, but there has to be something else you can do that will allow you to bring income in, because you got a toddler to feed, you have a family to feed. So, there was something to do. And I started paying attention to what was happening around me on social media. And everybody had fell into this situational depression. Um, and I hate to say that I took this opportunity, but I realized that we all had fell into this slump. And one thing that was making us feel better was to eat, or was to, get some sweets or whatever. And I hate to say that I took advantage of that horrible, eat stress eating. But I did notice it with my peers and other businesses, that the dessert industry had all of a sudden skyrocketed due to COVID, because people were um, depression. They were eating through their depression.
Well, that's a great point in coming back, because you obviously faced your reality. It was thrown at you, out of your control. You've got bills to pay. You've got things that have to happen. You've worked hard. And now you're going, oh, wait, here's another opportunity I could use my skill sets at, because this is now the newest thing out there that people need, which was sweets. I still do that. I didn't need COVID to eat sweets, but so you were aware of your surroundings. I mean, coming back, you have to be aware of the surroundings. You have to be engaged in what's going on, so you can not just sit there in stew in what just happened to you. So you saw the need and said, I'm going to fill it. Is that a good statement?
Correct. Yes, I saw that people were buying desserts left and right. And I was like, oh, I could do desserts. And it was funny, because a lot of people don't know, even though I have a Southern restaurant, my beginning culinary experience was with my Little Daisy Cakes venture. I had started making desserts back in 2005. Um, and I was just making cakes and pies. And that's where I really, really started getting into the culinary world in 2005 with Little Daisy Cakes. So when I saw this moment again, I knew that, I have this in my back pocket. I can make cakes. I could decorate cakes. I could do this. Maybe I can, start selling desserts. I already had what I consider a little following of customers. So I was like, well, maybe I could reach out to those customers and start this business to, just help everyone, help myself, help them as they use it to recover, and so I relaunched Little Daisy Cakes.
Wow. So how did that go? You relaunched, you repivoted. Everyone used the word pivoted. I was kind of tired of hearing that word, but that's really what you did. How was the how what was the uphill climb, if any?
So the hardest part for me with Daisy Cakes was basically starting a business all over again and trying to find new clientele and basically just start all over again. Like this was a whole new business. Even though Modern Southern Table had became a name in itself, Daisy Cakes wasn't, and people weren't familiar with my desserts. And so the hardest role was just relaunching and starting a whole new venture, which basically had to start from zero. Like, hi, I'm Daisy.
Yeah.
I make cake.
Sounds good though. But but you just did it. So how long did it take to get off the ground? How long did it take for you to get to a point where you're like, okay, this is going to work?
So I knew the first day that I put it on Facebook when I got 20 orders that I was like, okay, this might be something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, I got 20 orders the very first day that I launched. And I was like, wow, this might be something serious, and we might have a new venture for the Lewis Restaurant Group. That's what we like to call ourselves. And we immediately, it just took off from there. We were doing probably 10 to 12 orders every day. And I was restricted to my home because of COVID. I had a toddler that was not in daycare because COVID has shut daycares down. I do have a commercial kitchen that I could cook at, that I use regularly. But with a toddler being home at this time, she was 2 to 3, and I couldn't take her to the kitchen because she was 2. She was terrible too. So, that was a nightmare in the kitchen. So I ended up baking at home and relaunching a baking business out of my home, even though I had commercial kitchens that I rent and pay for monthly. I couldn't even get to them because of COVID. So literally, I was just baking 10 to 12 pies a day out of my home. Um, and it was pretty crazy. We were busy pretty much all of 2020 with pies and cheesecakes.
Well, the interesting thing that I'm hearing as you're telling your story is you had more than just the challenge of COVID, an uncontrolled thing shut me down, to I've got to launch from ground zero, to I've got to get customers, to I've got a toddler. It was challenges all around you. What really was the thing when you're coming back and you're doing it? What kept you persevering?
It definitely was my daughter.
Yeah. So that you had a driver in there that was helping you with you always have something that drives you. And when you're coming back, you have to have that or you're not going to persevere through it.
Right. Just knowing that I had to keep her safe, one, because COVID, we just didn't know. And knowing that I had to do this to, feed us and take care of us was important. And so I just kept pushing, kept grinding every day through it. And, we did well. We did pretty well up until August of 2020. And then that's when COVID really impacted my life.
Right, because it became personal to you.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but
Right.
you really couldn't continue on with this. I mean, from what you've told with your story, but it got you through a time period, and you came back, and you did the responsible thing by taking care of people that had COVID in your life, and that you had to take that and prioritize it. But then again, you had to come back to, hey, the restaurant is going to get to open again.
Right.
So now you're back to, I got to start over again. I got to come back again.
Right. Because in August, family got impacted by COVID and some other health concerns. And I had to literally shut Little Daisy Cakes down just because there was no way that I could take care of family and do it. So we literally sent out a note to all the customers and said, "Hey, we can't take orders now until we our family is over the COVID." And it took a long time. My father ended up having a stroke, and so several things ended up just delaying it. And so I ended up going from a booming business that I just knew was about to we were about to flip and turn into a new venture. And then COVID and life hit again, like you said, and so I had to start all over again. It wasn't until the beginning of 2021 that the Cameron Mitchell group reached out and said, "Hey, we heard the governor is about to lift some of these restraints. Um, Restaurants will be able to reopen, and so we're ready to go." And at that moment, I had to decide what to do. Because I'll be honest, I kind of fell out of love with the restaurant business because now I had this new venture, Daisy Cake, and I was just using my creativity. It was just blowing up, and everybody loved it, and I was like, oh goodness. So I kind of fell out of love with the restaurant. Also, what was happening with the restaurant industry was terrifying. Restaurants still to this day are shutting down every day. um, the price of food is going up astronomically. Um, we can't find staffing. So when Cameron Mitchell calls, it was kind of like terrifying. Do I tell him no? I don't want to do this now? And or and just work and work to build Daisy Cakes up, because I knew it was nowhere near where Modern Southern Table had been. Um, it was really in its new infancy stages. So it was nowhere near where Modern Southern Table had been for the last 7 years. So I knew that Little Daisy Cakes was going to be a long, long road. So I had to decide to put Daisy Cakes on hold again and relaunch the restaurant, or just keep going with Daisy Cake. And I decided to go with the restaurant. Um, and the reason I did that, one, was because, yes, I had worked so hard for the last 7 years to get there. And second is because I had the Cameron Mitchell team behind me. That was like the draw. Like, I wouldn't want to do this by myself, like reopen a restaurant during COVID by myself. I know restaurants who have tried and haven't succeeded, and I know some that who have tried, but I totally knew that I couldn't have done it without the CMR team, just having that additional support. And so that was what pushed me to go ahead and work on reopening the restaurant.
Well, I want to take a minute to kind of recap when you are your lowest point and you come back and you have challenges and you come back and you have things that you have to do. I'm hearing you that challenges just didn't stop on March 9th. They continued and you just kept addressing them. Two, you had the right drivers. Your family and your daughter was your motivation. So, that is what helped you go, I got to keep doing this. So if you don't have the right driver, when you're trying to come back, you're not going to succeed.
Right.
And then you had to make decisions quick, because when the governor's office says we're reopening in 2 to 3 weeks and an organization like Cameron Mitchell calls, you don't say no to that very often. So
Right.
you had to make some quick decisions, and you based it on, hey, I'll have a support system, or do I really start over again? So you had to make quick decisions, but you had to pick, there had to be some common sense and logic. So when people are coming back, you have to do those things, right?
Right.
The other thing I'm hearing you say is fear played a role, and being terrified, how did you say that? Terrified.
Yeah.
Played a role, but you didn't let it get you. So to the audience, when you are in this position, like Daisy has been in a time period, in an industry that's just hard anyways. Challenges don't stop. Drivers have to be right. Quick decisions sometimes have to be made. You have to know why. And I'm sorry, but support and common sense, that's the CPA coming out of me, has to be a consideration. And then fear can't grip you. You got to keep that going. So those were things that in your story, I want to make sure people are hearing besides just the story. So you reopened, you got a couple weeks and you got to go, right? And so how did 2021 go? Talk a little bit about that.
2021 started out amazing. We went ahead and launched. And at that time, I feel like Columbus was, sick of COVID. And so they came out full speed.
Yep. Oh, cool. Yes. We're all still sick of it, by the way, but yes.
Right. And so we launched with a lot of success. We did really, really well. Like I said, we had the partnership of the Cameron Mitchell team, and so they've helped pull us along. We've just been flowing, doing really well. We kind of were one of the standouts and at the Bud Dairy. We had a lot of publicity, a lot of press. We still are getting publicity and press. So we were doing really good. But again, 2021 also was plagued again with COVID. This time, 2 new variants. And as soon as the news announces a variant, we can see almost in sales the drop off of customers. And the new one, the Omicron or Omicron, I can never say it. That one is wow. It's knocked our sales out drastically again. So we're still in this upward hill battle of fighting everything that comes with this COVID. With COVID, the age of COVID basically is what it is. It's nothing else, but we're now in the age of COVID, and now it's going to be an uphill battle regardless. We can sell, but now we got, hyperinflation coming, and all our profits are being eaten up because now, the cost of chicken is 3 times the price it was in April. It was just, 2021 was great, but we saw a lot of issues just because of the age of COVID, and that most restaurants before COVID never really experienced. So, like I said, literally, I give you a price comparison. So if anyone ever wants to know what restaurants are struggling with, but when I opened in April of 2021, a case of the catfish I was buying was like 50, it was about $50. Now, a case of the catfish is almost $125, and that's not even a full year price difference. So to have such a major price swing so quickly was, really detrimental to a lot of businesses.
Well, I will tell you, though, there's no doubt in my mind that you will continue to come back, go 3 steps forward, and take 2 steps back. Because based on what you've been through in the last year, you continually hit those challenges one after another. And I'm assuming your daughter is still the driver, because provision has to be in that household. You're going to still keep making quick decisions or sometimes a little bit more methodical, but in today's environment, you really can't. And I think you're going to still know why the why you do this is why you can come back, right? But
Correct.
and having the right support teams around you is huge, not just with the Cameron Mitchell team, but with advisors and with everyone. That keeps you focused on the forward of going.
hmm
And the fear and the terrification are still here for 22. And so, what would you tell the audience to embrace? You can do this. You just got to keep. You might be doing comeback a lot. What would you say to the audience on coming back, staying focused, going forward? And by the way, in June you might have to come back again.
Exactly. Um, I would definitely tell them to just kind of focus on, not kind of, but focus on your main drivers, as you mentioned, and have goals and realize that things change. I can't even tell people to have plan A, plan B, plan C, because I had those and none of them worked out.
You're on
Um,
D or E, maybe. You might be even have to do F by June, right?
right. So, excuse me. Yes. So, yeah. So, it's just one of those things is you just have to have a driver, a main focus in life, and push towards that, and know that you're going to hit every roadblock, and every thing is going to get in your way, and just know that you just have to keep pushing, and that you have to pivot or refocus quickly. Like, you don't have time to give yourself a full pity party. um have that moment, cry, do whatever you need to do, but reality is you got to get back to work. So just, pull up your big girl pants or boy pants or whatever, and just realize that this is the direction I have to go. I have my main focus, my goal, that my original goal, and just stay focused on that goal and do one thing perfectly every day.
There you go. Do one thing perfectly every day. I love that. Great, great line. But one thing I will tell you with you is your product is above the standard. So you've got something that it's not just a restaurant. You've got something that's really, really quality. It's above. You've got a product that can come back. You've got something that can sell when the selling can happen, or when people can be out and about. So that's really a lot of your battle. Even if you came and said, I'm going to do cakes and I'm going to do the restaurant, I mean, you've got products that are worth putting time into. It's worth, it's worth the investment you're doing. There are some people who's like, just give it up. It's not a good product. You can't get it out the door. You've just got
Yeah.
high standards with your stuff. But women in business had a really tough time in COVID. Some of it was the type of industry they were in. Some of it was the daycare issues. Just like you could have made twice the pies in a commercial restaurant, but you had daycare issues. So the challenges for women during this COVID were a lot more than male-owned businesses. And even for women of color, it was even harder. the statistics and the data is staggering when you see it. What would you tell the audience today for women who are in business, women of color, the challenges that they can conquer? What would you say they were, and how did you conquer them?
Um, you know, no, I was gonna say no. I was gonna say I didn't feel like the challenges were necessary of color, but then when you think about it, yeah, they are, because one of the major issues that I've always had was getting funding. Um, my peers, there's 10 other restaurants in Bud Dairy, and when I talked to them, majority of them had no problem getting funding. And I am the only African American there, and I was the one that had problems getting funding. So yeah, things like that did definitely were roadblocks to getting back open and just during this age of COVID. So there was definitely things that affected us more than probably other people. However, the one thing that I would tell anybody, female minorities, especially minorities, is create a team, a, a group support system outside of your family and your friends. Um, as you know, Mary McCarthy is like my biggest support system. She's my mentor. She's like my mother at
Yes.
times.
Mary McCarthy does that with many. She's with the WSBA, which Daisy's very associated with. It's the Women's Small Business Accelerator. And a lot of your success can be attributed to that organization. But you're right, having the support systems outside your family, huge, huge.
Right, because a lot of us tend to just turn to people who haven't dreamed our dreams before, or haven't accomplished our goals before. And so when we turn to those people, they can't tell us yay, nay, or which direction to go. So we really should reach out and create a peer system, a support system, of people who have done things better than you or greater than you or have their own resources or whatever, because your family and friends will only push you as far as you let them push you. And that's really nowhere. So you gotta have a support system. And I find people of minority women tend to not do that. We tend to try to do it all ourselves, um, because that's what we have taught and that's what we have been through all our lives. But at this point, if you want to be successful, you can't do it by yourself. That's the biggest thing that I could tell anyone, that not one step of my whole journey has been by myself.
There you go. So when you come back, it's with others helping you.
Yes.
Got it. That's fantastic. Well, Daisy, I can tell you this much. I'm part of the Ohio Women's Coalition, and we are working right now with the legislature in Ohio. We got $10 million in the budget, $5 million each year, starting July of last year, and they're figuring out how it can help women in business that were definitely had to do some comebacks and be the comeback kid, and you're going to probably be it again. So the Ohio Women's Coalition is really working to make sure it's another support system that's fairly new, that you can have success. So I'm really glad you brought in that component of support systems outside of your family. Because if you don't have people who are that business entrepreneur in your family and friends, they don't get it. So you have to have the other side. But I just appreciate you coming on today, talking about your experiences, your comebacks. I still would love it if you delivered me a chocolate cake with white icing. I would take it. And with no hesitation, I'm sure it's delicious. But I just appreciate I saw you at a gala where you talked, and it was just inspiring hearing you. And I think everybody should make sure they get down to your restaurant and try it. If you want to tell us again where the location is and your website, so people will know what that is.
Okay, yes. So we're the Modern Southern Table, and we're at the Bud Dairy Food Hall, which is located at 1086 North 4th Street. So we're in the Italian Village area, all that new development down there. We're right smack dab in the middle of that. And our website is modernsoutherntable.com.
Beautiful. And I really believe, although I shouldn't put this pressure on you, that you should do something still with the cakes. I just know you're already stretched thin, but I appreciate you being on today. I appreciate you telling your story, giving the audience some things about, hey, here's how you can come back. Challenges aren't going to stop. The right drivers, quick decisions, and know why. Do not let fear and be terrified. Do not let that get you. And make sure you have plenty of support. So thank you for sharing today, and you're making me hungry. But have a great day, and we'll do this again. Hopefully, we'll hear how you came back in 22. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Betty.
You got it. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Inspiring Women has been presented by Bradyware & Company. As your career advancements continue, your financial opportunities will continue to grow. Be prepared. Visit Bradyware.com to find out more about the accounting services that can assist you to that next level. All this, plus more about the podcast, can be found in the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to share this show or give us a review. Remember, inspiration is powerful. Whose life will you be changing?